You're listening to the Third Coast Gridiron H-Town's podcast on the LSG Network with your host, Marc Henry.
The stage is set. The brackets are made. It's that time of year. Who's going to be playing after Thanksgiving? 6 games to Jerry World, to the mountaintop. It's the playoffs now right here in the state of Texas, man. And it gets no bigger than H-Town High School football. Of course, I am your host with the most, Marc Henry, here for the Third Coast Gridiron. On the Lone Star Gridiron Network, the authority for high school football in the state of Texas. We're going to come back, take a small break. We'll talk about Week 11, the final week of the regular season, the big game, the big stopper that everybody around the state heard about, including H-Town on the east side. Somebody went down. We'll talk about that. And let's talk about who we think will make it to state out of H-Town. Right here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron. On the LSG Network. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Lone Star Gridiron is looking for interns. Over the years, we have helped dozens of students get jobs in sports media. If you want to shortcut your path to a career in sports media, click on the internship link on LoneStarGridiron.com.
The streak is over. 57 consecutive games won by the North Shore Mustangs in district play. Now, we talked about Summer Creek as one of those teams that we thought could come out of Houston this year. They had a tough loss against Seed King. Now, in the Seed King game, they turned the football over 4 times in the first half. They rebounded, tried to get back in the game, but it was too little too late against a great team like Seed King. But I knew that these guys, the Bulldogs, had what it takes to make a state run, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But they went into this game, including this one, they're on a 4-game winning streak. But to stop the third longest district winning streak in H-Town, it's one of those things, and they did it, 27-0 on the home turf for the Mustangs. Only Katy with 75 straight and Lamar had longer streaks of district wins. I think the Summer Creek has the opportunity to make a run. I really think that they have the pieces to do it. Benny Easter's playing at a phenomenal level. You got Noah Spinks as well. Braylon Causey. They got the pieces to do it. I like Summer Creek. And we'll talk about their first round matchup here in just a little bit. But big shout out to the Bulldogs for getting it done. They win a share of the district title, of course, along with Seed King, along with North Shore. It's a 3-way tie in 23-6A. But that's neither here or there now. It doesn't even matter now because, they got bragging rights for a year, of course. They took down the big dog, of course. But the second season is here, the real place where dogs compete. It's win or go home. Of course, Summer Creek's going to 6A D2. It made a run a couple of years ago and faced probably the best team in the country at that particular time in DeSoto, and they got thumped. This isn't your same Bulldogs team from a few years ago. I think that they're a lot better, a lot more well-rounded, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the show. But they've won 4 straight. Their defense has been dominant. They held North Shore to 142 yards, and I can't remember the last time that North Shore's been shut out. Long time since they've been shut out. I can't remember. I mean, it's a long time for that. But, we move on to the playoffs. Both teams are playoff teams. Shout out to Summer Creek and Seed King for sharing that district title along with North Shore. That's a tough place to play in that district. Of course, Atascocita gets in as well. The usual suspects in that district. But, shout out to Summer Creek. They'll take on Clear Springs in the by-district round, and North Shore will take on Deer Park. Now, shout out to the Klein High School. They get into the playoffs as well. But I think that, coming out of that district, of course, with Kane, Klein Oak, Tomball Memorial, Magnolia West, that's a tough one to get in. But, shout out to the Klein High School, and they're in, of course. But let's start talking about some of these guys that had great weeks last week before we get into the playoffs. And I want to shout out somebody that's really hadn't, been getting the limelight that they deserve. And that's over at Galena Park High School, and that's Kerry Clay. He's rushed for over 2,000 yards this year. He's the single season rushing record holder over at Galena Park High School, man. Big ups to him. Great season. He had 234 yards and 4 touchdowns in the first half of the regular season finale last week. He's rushed for over 2,000, 27 tutties, averaging almost 10 yards a carry. This is a guy that I think will get a chance to play at the next level. Now this is the first time in a long time that we've seen Galena Park have a playoff team. Now they run into a juggernaut in Port Arthur Memorial. I mean, they're ranked in the top 10 in the state. They got some of the best guys in the state when it comes to next level prospects. Tank King's a Texas A&M commit at linebacker, so he will see a lot of him. But you got to shout him out for his big year, and that's what I think you got to look at, man. Shout out to him. Now, shout out to Grand Oaks for getting in the playoffs for the first time, man. They are a team that could be scary. College Park as well, over there in the Woodlands. And Willis, hey, the Willis and the Woodlands, they're playoff teams almost on a yearly basis. But Grand Oaks, College Park get in out of the 13-6A, and we'll talk about a couple of those schools, a couple of games towards the end of the year. Of course, the end of the season, the end of the show. We'll talk about a couple of those teams towards the end of the show as we break down some bi-district games to look at. Well, let's talk about guys that balled out. Now, this is our saying, man, what we've been talking about this year. You got to let your ballers be ballers, and you got to let your playmakers be playmakers. Cash Schwab, junior running back over at Bridgeton, has been having a phenomenal season. He had 232 yards and 3 tutties, averaged almost 12 yards a carry as they get a 35-34 win. And they head to the playoffs. They take on Klein Collins. That's a big game for sure. Colin Davis, junior quarterback over at Hightower, did everything he could to get it done. 60-14 victory over Elkins. Passed for 246 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rushed for 124 and 3 tutties as well. Hightower's going to take on Manville in a big game. That's a big first-round game, man. We got some crazy matchups in the bi-district round. We got to talk about that as well. Shout out to Ian Thomas over at Tomball. Big-time game in the final week of the season. 174 yards, 3 tutties as they beat Klein Forest 58-42. He's rushed for over 1,200 yards and 17 tutties on the season, averaging almost 7 yards a carry. He will be going up against Waller. Man, I'm telling you, dude. Man, guys, there's some great matchups in the first round of the playoffs. They take on Waller, who's 7-3, and that's a very good team. For real, no doubt. No slouches in this first round. This is why I always say, man, it's very hard to come out of Houston when it comes to playoffs. It's one of those things where, man, if you don't play your best football in the opening round, you may be at home early. But let's shout out to Brady Barrier, quarterback over at Barbers Hill. Had a big game. Clinched the number 2 seed in 9-5. D1 with a big win over Beaumont Westbrook, 32-21, 14-21 for 306 yards and 4 tutties. Man, he was a monster. Shout out to his big-time receiver, Trip Davis, who had 9 catches for 217 and 3 tutties. Brady has 21 touchdowns on the season and also 9 rushing. They take on Wild Trip in the bi-district round. Shout out to Wild Trip. The Rams back in the playoffs. Conrad Bennett, Jr. over at Memorial. Man, he had a monster day, 181 yards and 2 touchdowns, man, and a big victory for Memorial, man. Shout out to those guys. They get into the playoffs as well, and they'll take on Wisdom. Shout out to Deion Sims, the running back at Sea King. He's been having a phenomenal year. Rushed for over 1,100 yards, 19 touchdowns as they got a share of that district title with North Shore and Summer Creek. He had a big game. He's committed to Rice now, 199 yards and 2 touchdowns and a big victory, man. He's going to be an X factor. We're going to talk about Sea King a little bit towards the end of the show. Kobe Miles over at Heights, man, he had a great night as the Bulldogs got a 55-12 victory over an 18-6A action. Passed for 280 yards, 7 TDs. Let me say that again, 7 TDs. He's passed for over 1,900 yards and accounted for 35 touchdowns. They take on Stratford in the bi-district round of the playoffs. But listen, man, we're going to talk about some of these matchups. We're going to tell you who we think will make it out of H-Town in the playoffs, man. It's a lot going on by district round. We definitely got to talk about it, man. I'm telling you, it's so exciting, man. It's the favorite part of the year. Right here on the TCG, we'll take a small break. We'll come back. We'll look at a couple of by-district matchups right here in H-Town on the TCG.
Hey, do you need topsoil, fill dirt, sand, mulch, gravel, limestone, you name it? Do you need that delivered and or spread? Texas Tree Cycle in Victoria has you covered for residential and commercial projects, big or small. These guys do it all. They do some amazing work. You can call them at 361-237-8006 for a free estimate. That's Texas Tree Cycle, bringing quality materials to your yard.
Region 3 is always the area that consumes most of the H-Town when it comes to the playoffs. And there's no other region in the state that's more wide open than 6AD1. Of course, that's been dominated by the North Shore Mustangs. I mean, it's been dominated by those guys for about a decade or so. But there's a team that's been creeping up, and we've been talking about this. Ridge Point is that squad. The Panthers are undefeated and ranked number 3 in the state. They've outscored their opponents 555-97. I think that this team has the capability to make a run at Jerry World. Their Achilles heel has been able to get out of that second, third round. Now, they take on Pearland Dawson. Dawson's a really good team. This is going to be probably the best team that they've faced all year. But I think that they can do it. They got the talent. It's whether they execute it. Brody Bartee has stepped up. He's played well all year. He's completing 64% of his passes. He has 23 touchdowns and only 1 interception. Dickinson is another team that I think can make a run, but they host a dangerous team in Atascocita. We're going to talk about some of these matchups. Corday Mack and company, they've lost 4 games, but they've been competitive in every game they've played this year. This is going to be the stiffest test that Dickinson's faced. Of course, they got Lorenzo Aguiar, who's one of the top quarterbacks in age this year. Dickinson hadn't won a state title since 1977. Now, I think the Gators can make a run, but I'm not sure if they can get out of Houston. They got a tough road to go. I mean, Ridge Point's there. Of course, Pearland, the Oilers are 10-0, number 6 in the state as well. I think this is the first time that these Oilers have been, undefeated in a while. 69-0 victory over South Houston last week. They've only given up about 7 points a game during district play. They take on a tough Travis team. Again, some of these matchups in the first round, I mean, these could be, opening games in the year, pre-district games, difficult contests. Like, you're going to have to play your best football right out of the gate. It's why it's so tough to get out of Houston, because you got to take on everybody's best shot, or usually the best teams, right away. North Shore, of course, stunning loss last week. Can't remember the last time that they actually got shut out. I think this was an eye-opener. Do you really want to kick the North Shore Mustangs or think that they're down? I don't think so. They played 2 of the better teams in the state. The first game of the year they played South Oak Cliff, and of course Summer Creek's a top 10 team as well. But they take on a stubborn Deer Park team. That's going to be a great game in the first round. I think the North Shore will be fine. They got to get that offense back going. Of course, Caleb Maryland's one of the most dangerous offensive weapons in the state. So we'll see. But I mean, Region 3, 6AD1 has got some dangerous teams. Of course, we talked about Atascocita. You talk about straight Jesuits and Johnny Herbert. He's closing in on 3,000. Cinco Ranch is a team that could be dangerous. Cypress Falls with Caden McCarty on D. This is a tough region to get out of. I'm telling you right now. But I mean, the area around, I mean, it could be North Shore versus Ridge Point, Pearland versus Dixon. Like, we need to be in NRG for those. I'm telling you right now. There should be a doubleheader in NRG on a Saturday where everybody can come through, where we can pull up. I'm telling you right now, that's a matchup. You know what I'm saying? Third Coast will be in the building for that for sure. Now, 6AD2, Region 3, I think Summer Creek's the team to beat. I've been saying Summer Creek all year. C.E. King's course is going to have something to say about that as well. You also got Memorial in there and Katy as well. Katy's a quiet sleeper. They ain't been making a lot of noise. But the Big Red Machine is what they do. You know that's what they do. They're gonna run the pill. They're gonna play tough, sound defense in that 3-4 look. Tremaine Hill's rushed for over 1,600 yards and 25 touchdowns. Shout out to him. He just cleared 4,000 yards in his career. This is a guy that's going to be playing on Saturdays. You'll see Tremaine Hill playing on Saturdays. But, to me, I think that Summer Creek has the opportunity to make a run to Jerry Ware out of 6AD2. They're going to have to really, really play clean, sound football. Clean, sound football. In 23, of course, we know 2023 they lost to DeSoto in the state. And last year they fell to Austin Vandergrift in the semifinals. This is a battle-tested team. They have some young talent. And you know what? The scary thing about Summer Creek is those guys in the 2027 class on that team come back. They got a couple young sophomores. This is a talented team that I think will be around for the next 3 years over at Summer Creek. Now, C.E. King, we talked about them. We talked about, Deion Sims. They also have Dylan Mitchell as well. I think this is a team that could really, really, really make some noise. And, I fully expect them to play Summer Creek again. And I think Summer Creek would like that because they feel like they left, some meat on the bone. I really think this is a game that could really, tell who's going to make it to Jerry Ware. I like Summer Creek in this region, honestly, though. I've been saying it all year. I'm going to stick by that. I'm going to stick by it for sure. A couple of more teams with 6A that you got to watch, of course, the Highlanders of the Woodlands with senior Jack Dalton's committed to TCU at the quarterback position. Client Collins could be scary. Bridgeland, Cash Schwab had a monster year last year. Made some noise. Had over 200 yards in the game against big time Dallas area foe in Duncanville. Cypress Ranch is a team to keep an eye on as well. I mean, this is kind of the Region 2 bracket of D2. Now, we talked about College Park. I think they're a fully dangerous team. Fully dangerous team with College Park. And Willis, don't sleep on those guys. They got one of the best players in the country in Jermaine Bishop Jr., and they're playing well. Magnolia's another team in that bracket that could, make some things difficult for everybody. But I still like Summer Creek coming out of that area. Now, man, we always talk about HISD, so let's talk about, of course, we've been talking, shout out to JY, shout out to North Forest, shout out to Madison and Waltrip, and Westbury and Wisdom as well for making the playoffs. But I think this is the year that Yates, I think that Yates gets out the first round. Now, they got a tough matchup with Needville, and they're going to have to play their best football. Shout out to head coach Jason Lewis, his first season there. But quarterback Chris Brown has been electric. He was named Built Fort Tough 4A Player of the Week after his 63-22 victory over Washington a couple of weeks ago. Passed for 241 yards and 5 touchdowns. Also runs for 146 and 2 tutties on the ground. And listen, special teams, he got busy as well. Returned 2 kickoffs in that game. Man, shout out to JY. I'm telling you right now, put your money on JY to get out of the first round this year. I'm telling you, heard it right here on the Third Coast Gridiron, man. Madison, man, shout out to the Madison Marlins. I think this is the best team that they've had in a little, man, probably since VY, since the Vince Young days. 9-1 on the season, won the district title for the first time since 2016. They take on Beaumont United. That's going to be a big game for those guys. They got to play sound football. United's a good team. The Beaumont area always has top talent. Madison has to take care of business. Now, Westbury, this is the best season I've ever seen, and I've been around doing this thing for a long time. But they got their act together this year. Shout out to Coach Jarvis Kelly. The Huskies have their highest win total since 1999. They scored the most points since 2009. Jefferson Rivas Hernandez has been the biggest threat offensively with over 1,200 total yards and 21 touchdowns. They take on a tough Lufkin team. That's a tough matchup for Westbury. Anything coming out of East Texas, is going to be real. You know what I'm saying? But listen, we're going to take a small break. We'll come back, talk about some 5A, some 4A. We just talked about HISD, and then we're going to get out of here on the TCG. Be right back.
Coaches, boosters, parents, every sport deserves a spotlight. From football and volleyball to basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, track, wrestling, and more. Give your athletes a weekly coaches show that builds pride and raises funds. Lone Star Podcast Network makes it turnkey. You talk for a few minutes. We handle production and distribution. Sponsors love it. Families share it. And your program benefits. Get the free information kit at lonestarpodcast.com/coaches. That's lonestarpodcast.com/coaches. Your team, your sport, your show.
Lone Star Gridiron is looking for interns. Over the years, we have helped dozens of students get jobs in sports media. If you want to shortcut your path to a career in sports media, click on the internship link on LoneStarGridiron.com.
This is how it's going to go, man. We're going to talk 5A, a couple of more games this weekend, and we're going to get out of here on the TCG. But I got to shout out to my guy, Coach Randall, and then the Randall Lions over there. I think that they're headed back to state. I've been looking at them all year, saw them play against Iowa Colony, got a couple fumbles early by Landon Williams-Callis, and they recovered from that to be a very, very good Iowa Colony team. I think it's going to be Iowa Colony and Randall again on a collision course for the second straight year. They've been putting up over 56 points a game and only giving up 10. Of course, Landon Williams-Callis is, in my opinion, is the best running back in the class 2027 in the country. You can hear that right here on the Third Coast. They're going to be back in this game. Now, to me, it's a collision course between them and South Oak Cliff again. I've had a chance to see South Oak Cliff this year. They're dominant, and they can run the football, but they got a little bit of juice in that passing game, and that defense is salty. I think we're on a collision course for those guys, but I think definitely Randall's going to run in the Iowa Colony again. Don't sleep on Brenham as well, coming in 5A as well. But I think that, Randall will host a playoff game against Colleen Ellison on Thursday. And this is a big game for those guys. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, hey, Bastrop's another team coming out of the Austin area in 5AD2. We talked about Brenham, Liberty Hill down in the Austin area, and Iowa Colony. I mean, these are some of the guys in Region 3 that they could possibly face. But in 5AD1, it's about Angleton and LaPorte. Angleton's number 8 in the state. It's been one of the top teams in 5AD1. They lost the week before to LaPorte in a big game. Sean Simon's been running like a wild man for LaPorte. They got the physical running game. Peyton Smith has been playing at a high level over there. But listen, Angleton's going to bounce back. We could repeat again. Angleton, LaPorte. I look for those guys to meet again. In I believe it'll be in the quarterfinals to get out of Houston. That's, you can mark it. Those are the two best teams coming out of the H in 5AD1. And I think it's a no-brainer. But Sean Simon is one of the most talented backs in the country, not just in the state of Texas in 2028. Of course, you got Michael Rhodes from Klein Oak. 222. We got the two best 2028 running backs right here in H-Town. One on the north, one on the south. That's how I go down. I'm telling you right now. Those are the two best backs in 2028. There's some other guys around the state. But, in the H, for sophomores, they're playing a great brand of football. All right, let's talk about a couple of matchups and we'll get out of here. The Woodlands taking on Davis. Now, the Woodlands can't sleep on Davis. Shout out to my guy, Coach C. They're going to play them tough. I expect this to be a tough game. I expect this to be a close game. Don't sleep on Aldine Davis. Klein Collins and Bridgeland. Again, look at these first-round matchups. That's a big game. That'll be 7 p.m. Friday. Maybe we'll have to pull up to that, man. Nimitz and Grand Oaks, that's going to be a great game as well. Klein and Cy Ranch, Cy Falls and Bel Air, that's a big game as well. Some of these first-round matchups, I'm telling you, dude, it's not something that you see on a regular occurrence. Pearland and Travis, we talked about that one earlier. Shout out to Lamar. The Texans taking on Cy-Fair. Cy-Fair's a good team. We talked about Cinco Ranch and Fulshire. That's a tough game coming out of that. A couple of 6A D2 matchups. Again, College Park, we talked about those guys. They're a sleeper coming out of there, not because a lot of people don't know about them. Man, shout out to Big Ike, though. Eisenhower's no slouch, man. They've been playing some really good football. Westfield and Willis is an interesting matchup as well. Of course, we talked about Jermaine Bishop Jr., electric, best player, best all-around player in the state, Texas commit. Salt Lakes and Magnolia is going to be a good game. We talked about Waller and Tomball. This is a game you want to keep your eye on as well. Hightower and Manville, 7 p.m. at Mercer Stadium in Sugar Land. Big game. I'm telling you guys, this is some of the bigger games right here in the H. You can't beat this with a stick if you try. You know what I'm saying? So, man, I think the playoffs are going to be very, very interesting. We talked about who we thought could come out. And I think Ridge Point in D1, 6A, Summer Creek in 6A, D2. I think LaPorte in 5A, D1. I think Randall in 5A, D2. That's how we rolling with it. You know what I mean? Coming out of Houston, out of this region, those are the picks that we're going to go with. And, I think those are the teams that have the best shot to make it to Jerry World coming out of Houston. Tough place to play, tough first-round matchups. And we'll be here to wrap it up for you next week when we talk about week 2 of the playoffs right here in H-Town. This is H-Town's podcast, The Third Coast Gridiron. I am your host, Marc Henry. You can follow me on Twitter at MarkHen44. You can follow me also at Third Gridiron and at TXTP Show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Tap in with me each week right here on the LSG Network. We'll see you on the field somewhere. Check out Third Coast Gridiron each week right here on the LSG Network. We out.
Coaches, boosters, parents, every sport deserves a spotlight. From football and volleyball to basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, track, wrestling, and more. Give your athletes a weekly coaches show that builds pride and raises funds. Lone Star Podcast Network makes it turnkey. You talk for a few minutes. We handle production and distribution. Sponsors love it. Families share it. And your program benefits. Get the free information kit at LoneStarPodcast.com/coaches. That's LoneStarPodcast.com/coaches. Your team, your sport, your show.